At the beginning of the movie, a girl talks about the witching season, a time feared by all. It is when practitioners of black magic unleash their powers to test their strength. The unlucky may fall victim, cursed to a fate far worse. An ominous wind drifts through the air, like a whisper of death itself, and I was born on that very day. We then see a midwife assisting a woman named Nuon in childbirth. Shortly after, a crow lands on the window ledge, causing the midwife to grow uneasy. After a while, the baby begins to emerge, and as the midwife pulls it out, she is horrified to see the umbilical cord being pulled back inside the mother. She forcefully pulls the baby out, causing the cord to snap and retract into the woman. The midwife declares that it's a devil's child and flees in terror, while Nuon is left stunned, watching her newborn chew on the cord. As the midwife rushes outside, countless crows flying overhead begin falling from the sky one by one, and the scene abruptly cuts here.
Comment. Subscribe to Recapss Horror.
9 years later, the girl is seen sitting alone when a boy approaches and offers her something to eat. An abbot then asks for her name, but she simply shakes her head, to which he gives her a name, saying, "From now on, your name will be Panor, so that people will love and cherish you." He then rubs a sacred thread on her arm while chanting a mantra to bless her, but suddenly, he clutches his chest in pain and collapses. People from the market rush over to check on him and find him vomiting blood. A woman angrily confronts Nuon, saying she warned her not to bring this devil child here, to which Nuon calls Panor a jinx, and the scene cuts here. Panor is now in grade 12, and while all the other students are playing in the playground, she quietly watches them from a classroom window. Down below, a girl named Shampoo is seen cheering for a boy named Pong, which sparks jealousy among Jib, who likes Pong, and her friends mock Shampoo and cruelly call her a slut. Soon, their teacher announces a break, and Shampoo happily grabs a drink for Pong. But Jib trips her on purpose, and her friends laugh and mock the embarrassed Shampoo. Just then, Pong arrives and extends his hand to help Shampoo up, but she notices a spider crawling on his face and quickly gets up to knock it off. She then crushes it under her foot, killing it. Moments later, she feels another spider crawling on her own body, which she brushes off frantically, while the other girls watch in confusion, unsure of what she's doing. It is then revealed that Shampoo has been cursed with black magic. She begins scratching her entire body uncontrollably, tearing at her skin and injuring herself in the process. Later, as Panor walks through the market to deliver food, the people around her glare with strange, disgusted looks. She arrives at Aunt Yam's place, who warmly welcomes her and treats her kindly. Aunt Yam also gives her a generous payment and encourages her to make 2 or 3 more types of desserts, offering to help sell them. Just then, Yam's husband enters and asks Panor if she's finishing high school this year, and what her plans are afterward, to which Panor replies that she's planning to take the exam to become a teacher. She then goes to deliver food to Uncle Tree, where Teo calls out to her and cheerfully tells Tree that Panor is her friend. Later, they see Peek in a fight with a group of men. He quickly overpowers them and demands the money. One of them hands it over, and Peek says, "This is just the interest, and make sure you repay Mr. Kiang in full." As he turns to leave, one of them pulls out a knife, and Panor quickly warns him, but by then the man attacks Peek. Just then, Teo calls out for the police, causing them to panic and flee the scene. Panor rushes over to check on Peek, but he says, "Don't touch me," and asks, "Do you want to kill me too? Just like you killed my mom?" In a flashback, Panor brings dessert for Peek, but his mother coldly tells her to stay away from her son. Suddenly, something begins to happen. Her neck veins start bulging violently, causing her to choke and collapse. In a panic, Panor rushes to help, placing her hands on the woman's neck, as if she's absorbing or trying to counter whatever is happening. At that moment, Peek and his father arrive and are horrified by what they see. Despite her efforts to help, Peek's mother dies, and from that day on, Peek has hated Panor. Panor asks Teo if she's afraid of her now, but Teo replies, "Not at all," saying she's lucky to be friends with a witch. She then mentions seeing Peek get stabbed without injury, and wonders if he also uses black magic, but Panor stays silent. That evening, we see Nuon performing a ritual, chanting incantations over her baby's corpse. Meanwhile, Panor returns home and stops the music playing on the tape recorder. However, as she starts to take off her shoes, she suddenly hears a baby crying. Nuon says, "I will be with you soon, my child." And Panor, seeing she's about to take her life, rushes to stop her, pleading, "Please, don't do this." But Nuna says, "Let go of me," before she gets up and walks away. That night, Panor has a strange and unsettling dream, where she finds herself in the middle of a dense forest, and a mysterious ritual is taking place. She watches strange symbols are carved into the woman's back, and as the woman turns around, Panor is stunned to discover that it is her own mother. Suddenly, she feels a baby inside her, and she jolts awake from her dream. The next day, villagers find the body of Toss, a local fish vendor, and an officer tells the inspector that Toss was an experienced fisherman, so he didn't drown. Who drank with Toss the previous night, says Toss said he was going to fish near Nuon's house. Sarge checks Toss's boat and finds strange objects tied to a fish. He quickly shows it to the inspector, saying he thinks Toss was definitely cursed. Toss's wife turns to Panor and accuses her of killing her husband, and shocked by the accusation, Panor panics and runs away. Later, Teo asks how they could accuse Panor so suddenly, but Panor says the man really seemed cursed. And when Tao asks how she found out, Panor explains she had a dream about following a man to an abandoned temple, and he had the same tattoo as Toss, though she didn't see his face. She remembers the tattoo and draws it on paper. Teo suggests they visit the temple, and if they find anything, she can show it to her father. As Teo helps Panor up, she notices she's bleeding and sees blood on the bench where Panor had been sitting. Later, Teo hands her a sanitary pad and asks if she is still in pain. And when Panor confirms, Teo says she will buy medicine for her and asks Yam to look after her. Teo's dad spots her and asks what she's doing there, but she says she's in a hurry. As he drives away, she bumps into a man and quickly apologizes. The man bends down to help pick up the dropped medicine, and Teo notices the same tattoo on his chest. The man also sees Panor's drawing of the tattoo, but simply picks it up and hands it back to her. As Teo is returning to Panor, we see the man following her, and he begins chanting some kind of incantation. Suddenly, Teo hears strange noises, heightening her fear. Suddenly, Teo starts choking and collapses, and an egg emerges from her mouth, followed by an embryo, terrifying her. Her condition rapidly worsens, and she falls back, but just then, Panor arrives and tries to help her. Gasping, Teo tells her that she saw the man with the tattoo. But then, to Panor's horror, many geckos tear their way out of Teo's body as she screams in agony. Hearing her cries, the inspector orders Serge to stop the car. They rush to the scene, and the inspector yells at Panor to let go of Teo and warns that he'll shoot if she doesn't. Sarge pulls her away while she desperately pleads that she's only trying to help. Later, the inspector asks about the cause of death, and the doctor says it was due to massive blood loss from severe lacerations, from the throat to the vaginal area. He then asks if he finds any weapon, and the inspector says he only found Panor choking his daughter. The inspector then visits Panor, who insists she was trying to save Tao, not kill her. He tells her to leave before he changes his mind, and she quietly walks away. Later, Nuon throws Panor into a room, and Panor insists the tattooed man killed Teo. Nuon warns her to stay away from others if she doesn't want them to die, then locks the door as Panor begs to be let out. The next day, Nuon receives a note saying her daughter has started her period, meaning it's time. That night, Panor hears strange noises echoing through her room, prompting her to desperately knock on the door and beg her mother to open the door. Suddenly, she feels a burning sensation spreading across her body. Terrified, she notices strange rashes forming on her skin and begins scratching uncontrollably. Moments later, her skin on her face starts to peel away, and when she catches a glimpse of herself in the mirror, she lets out a scream of agony. Meanwhile, as the inspector goes through Teo's belongings, he finds the paper with the tattoo sketch. The next morning, as Panor heads to school, everyone is taken aback by her transformation. Her once blemished skin now flawless and radiant. Then, in a flashback, we see that the previous night, Panor secretly attended Teo's funeral, where she vowed to uncover the man responsible and make him pay. Later, Pong asks Panor, doesn't she know the boys are crazy about her, so she could boss them around now? Jib, who likes Pong, sees them together, and Panor asks if he can do her a favor, to which he asks, what does she need? That night, she visits the temple with Pong, who tells her that every monk who stayed there died, so it was abandoned. They then visit the temple, and seeing it, Panor says it's not abandoned. She then finds the same tattoo on the idol there, but only then Jib and her friend arrive there, and Jib thanks Pong, saying she believes now that he really loves her. In a flashback, Jib asks Pong to prove if he loves her. Pong tells Jib he's done what he promised, and reminds her to tell her dad to clear his family's debt. Panor tries to escape, but Jib's friends catch her and drag her back to the temple. They force her to the ground, and one boy starts removing her clothes, until Peek arrives just in time and knocks them away. It's then revealed that Peek overheard Jib and Pong talking earlier. Panor thanks him, but he says, don't think I'm being nice, and the only one who gets to torment you is me. Panor then recalls Teo telling her to stand up for herself, and if she doesn't want to be bullied, she has to make sure no one dares mess with her. The next day, at school, Panor attacks Pong with scissors, and when Jib tries to stop her, Panor whirls around like a storm, tackles her to the ground, and without a moment's hesitation, drives the blade into her. That night, Panor visits the abbot and confesses that she hurt some people at school. She admits she tried to resist, but couldn't control herself. The abbot tells her that at least she didn't do anything worse, and asks if she's willing to forgive them. Meanwhile, Peek secretly watches them, and Panor then tells the abbot that the control totem is much stronger this time, and asks him to endure it. Suddenly, veins begin to appear on Panor's hands and move toward her eyes. As the abbot starts reciting prayers, something begins to emerge from his toes. Panor gasps for air, and when she pulls the string-like form from his toe, the abbot remains seated, silently enduring the pain. Next, Jib is seen sitting with her friends during a dark ritual, where it's revealed that she was the one who used black magic on Shampoo, and this time, she is targeting Panor. Meanwhile, as Panor returns home, the door bursts open on its own, and suddenly, someone rushes past her from behind. Confused, she looks around, but a figure lunges at her, prompting Panor to run outside and hide under a tree. After a moment, she sees the figure pass by and hears its fading footsteps, only for it to suddenly attack, knocking her down and beating her. Panor fights back and gets to her feet, but the figure charges again, slams her to the ground, and tries to kill her. Just then, Tree appears and strikes it from behind, wrecking it and shocking Jib and her friends. Pla, enraged, begins chanting incantations, causing a dark smoke to flow into Panor's ear, and she immediately starts writhing in agony. Tree then presses his foot on her and stomps on her chest, but strangely, the pain is felt by Pla himself, who collapses, screaming in torment. Jib and her friends cry out in fear as Tree continues to strike Panor's chest. With each blow, Pla's body convulses until his ribs burst through his chest, tearing him open, and he dies. Tree tells Panor that she's safe now, then turns to Nuon, grabs her by the hair, and angrily says he told her to take care of Panor, and she failed. He then starts beating her, but Panor rushes in, asking why he's hurting her mother. Tree scoffs and tells her that Nuon was never really her mother, and that she was just hired to give birth to her. The revelation stuns Panor, and Tree then tosses a wad of money at Nuon and coldly tells her that her job here is done, so get out. Nuon silently picks up the money and walks inside, while Tree tells Panor that she's wasted 18 years of her life. As Panor tries to free herself, she suddenly sees the tattoo on his chest and says, "You are the one who killed Tao." But Tree replies, You're the reason Teo died. As Panor struggles to break free, Nuon suddenly stabs Tree in the back, causing him to collapse. As Nuon tries to take Panor away, a flock of crows suddenly swoops down and viciously attacks them. The birds swarm Nuon, leaving her severely wounded, and finally, one of them slashes her throat. Just then, a mysterious woman appears, rotating a smoking pot, and the crows quickly scatter. Panor steers her boat toward the woman, screaming for help. The woman helps her dock, and Panor rushes to Nuon's side, but Nuon collapses. Barely conscious, Nuon tells the woman, her sister, Ni, to take care of her child. She then turns to Panor, apologizes with her final breath, and dies in her arms.
Still watching? Good. Then like, comment, and subscribe to Recapss Horror.
Meanwhile, Peek visits Panor's house, but finds it empty. Just then, the inspector and Sarge arrive, and when Peek asks what they are doing here, Sarge tells him that Pla is dead and Jib is causing a scene, claiming Panor cursed Pla. The inspector then notices blood on the floor and instructs Sarge to scour the place. During their search, they discover a hidden room upstairs where Nuon had performed rituals, and to their shock, they find the remains of a baby inside. The next day, they bring the remains to the abbot, and seeing it moving, the inspector asks, "What is all this about?" Meanwhile, Ni tells Panor that Nuon once dreamed of becoming a singer, but their parents didn't support her, so she ran away from home. She planned to move to Bangkok to pursue her dream, until one day, she encountered the cultists, and they offered her a large sum of money to carry a child. The abbot explains that certain black magic cults have a way of preserving their powers by storing them in a woman's womb. The child born from such a ritual would inherit those powers, and in this case, the child's corpse must have been drained by Panor while still in the womb, which is why all the magic now resides within her. Ni tells Panor that Nuon had written her letters, which she can read. In them, Nuon says her life ended when the child they wanted died in the womb, and she's trapped until she raises another to bear one for them. She calls Panor cursed, admits she never saw her as a daughter, and hated her for ruining her life. Yet Panor never complains, stays by her side, and studies hard, which fills her with guilt. She wonders if Panor knows what awaits her, and questions whether she should hate or love her. Meanwhile, Tree is seen performing a ritual and noticing crows gathering on the fence. Ni quickly rushes to Panor and takes her inside the house, but before they can secure all the doors and windows, a dark spirit enters and lunges at Panor. Ni hurries to her side and urges her to stay strong, explaining that the spirit is trying to pull the magic out of her, but Panor resists, refusing to let it go. As she screams for help, Ni prays beside her and tells her that the only way to survive is to unleash the power within, but reminds her that once awakened, the power will remain with her until the day she dies. Ni begins chanting incantations, and Panor is flooded with memories. The bullying, the pain, the deaths of her friend and mother, all caused by black magic. Consumed by rage, she growls, "You want me to become a demon? Then I'll become a demon." Meanwhile, the abbot tells Peek that Panor can extract curses from others and absorb them into herself. When she discovered this gift, she began secretly helping him. He reveals that, on the day Peek's mother died, Panor was actually trying to save her. It's then revealed that Peek's mother died because of a love potion his father secretly made. Peek confronts him, and his father apologizes, admitting he was scared. Meanwhile, a man asks Tree where he's going, and Tree says they underestimated Panor, and he's going to hunt her down, but the man stops him, saying Panor's magic is unstable, and that soon, she'll come to him on her own. That night, Panor performs a ritual, chanting incantations and crafting dolls. Meanwhile, Jib tells Pong there are rumors that Panor fought with her mother, and the place was covered in blood. She says it's good Panor's gone, and if she returns, she's in trouble. When Pong asks if she's scared, knowing Panor uses dark magic, Jib replies, "I'm not afraid as I've got the good stuff," and shows him a box filled with black dog's blood to break curses. Pong calls her resourceful, then says he needs to head home. As they exit the room, someone collects Jib's hair from her pillow. After a while, when Jib returns, she is horrified to find Panor waiting for her. She quickly tries to reach for the box, but Panor tightens the hair into the doll, causing Jib to collapse onto the bed in pain. Panor begins chanting incantations as Jib screams in agony, feeling as if she's being strangled. Panor then blows Pla's ashes into her face, and Jib quickly gets up and tries to escape, but she is met by the ghost of Pla at the door. Panor mockingly asks, "Why so scared? Isn't she your personal hairstylist?" She resumes her chanting, and Pla yanks Jib's hair so violently that the skin on her scalp tears. Meanwhile, Pong shows Tree a photo of a girl, and during this, Panor puts soil from Tree's slipper onto a talisman. Tree hands Pong a yantra, telling him it's the ultimate charm for love magic, but it comes at a high price. Just then, they hear a noise and notice a gecko on the wall, prompting Tree to quickly stand up and grab a talisman with Panor's photo on it. He then enters a room, searching for something, and after a while, he discovers the talisman that Panor has hidden there. He then goes upstairs and heads toward a room, but Panor strikes him on the head. Tree quickly recovers and fights back, easily overpowering her. He then uses the talisman to punish Panor, breaking her arm and legs. He then grabs a stick and says, "Once I extract your magic, you'll suffer worse than your mother did." But Panor suddenly stabs a dagger into his foot, making him fall back and giving her a chance to escape. Tree chases after her, searching desperately, but Panor suddenly throws Black Dog's blood on him, then quickly grabs a stick and strikes him, knocking him to the ground. As he struggles, she approaches, looks around and says, "You've been doing this vile stuff for a long time, haven't you?" She takes a photo off the wall and asks, "Who is this child?" And Tree replies, "That's your father." Panor asks, "The one who turned me into a demon?" And then she strikes him again, knocking him unconscious. Meanwhile, Pong hears someone crying behind him and is horrified to see Jib standing there. She approaches him, saying, "I love you, and don't leave me." Pong pushes her and turns to run, but Panor appears from the other side, and startled, he immediately apologizes to her. Next, we see that Panor has taken both Pang and Jib captive. Pong pleads with her to let him go, swearing that it was Jib who made him do everything. But Panor coldly sits down and says, "Those legs you use for rat and ball, you won't be needing them anymore." She then picks up a pair of pliers and, one by one, breaks all the toes on one of his feet as he screams helplessly in agony. Her torture escalates, and she binds Pong and Jib together with metal wire. Meanwhile, at the school, the principal and the janitor discover the corpses of 4 students inside a classroom. The janitor rushes into the police station, urgently reporting dead students at the school. Meanwhile, Peek wakes up and finds himself in Panor's house, and as he steps outside, the inspector arrives and asks where Panor is, revealing that 4 students who had issues with her were found dead at the school. Just then, Sarge calls him over, and when they rush inside, they're horrified to find Tree's dead body. They then head to Tree's house and discover the dead bodies of Pong and Jib. Sarge shows the inspector a photo, and Peek wonders why they're treating the boy in the picture with such respect. The inspector says he believes Pong and Jib were killed as part of Panor's revenge, but with Tree, there might be another reason, and the photo is somehow connected to Panor. The next day, a ritual takes place at the temple, attended by the entire village. Sarge asks the inspector if he's sure Panor will come, and the inspector says he believes she'll be drawn to those with the tattoos. Soon after, a meal is served and everyone eats eagerly until a man spits out his food and finds a talisman, and it's revealed that Panor mixed Tree's flesh into some dishes. The man begins acting erratically, rips open his shirt, and reveals a tattoo on his chest. Suddenly, other cult members start to lose control, screaming wildly as their conditions deteriorate. The inspector and Sarge rush to investigate, while the abbot tells Peek to stop Panor. Inspector, Sarge, and Peek try to stop the cursed villagers, struggling to hold them back. And after a while, Panor arrives, chanting powerful incantations. As she continues, the cult members collapse to the ground, writhing in pain, and amid the chaos, it's shockingly revealed that Aunt Yam and her husband are also members of the cult. Peek pleads with Panor to stop, but she says the people she once respected were the ones who hurt her from the beginning, so they have to die. Just then, the principal intervenes, seizing Peek, and using his dark magic, he knocks him to the ground. Shocked, Panor begs the principal to stop hurting Peek, and he promises to spare Peek if she comes with him. With no choice, she agrees and pleads for Peek's release. But after the cult members seize Panor, the principal breaks his promise and refuses to spare Peek. Peek is taken to the abbot, who tries to help him. But despite his efforts, nothing seems to be working on him. Then a woman enters the temple, and as Peek's father and the abbot see her, the scene cuts off. Meanwhile, Panor is taken to the abandoned temple on the island, where preparations for the ritual begin. It is then revealed that the woman is Nee, who performs a separate ritual in an attempt to save Peek. However, despite her efforts, she is unable to heal him. The principal assures Panor she's safe now, but she accuses him of betrayal, saying, "You are my father, my teacher, and now you want to me?" He insists it's a sacred transfer of power before his departure, and the child will become like a father to everyone here. Panor accuses him of viewing women as vessels for his twisted legacy, and curses them all to die in agony and burn in hell. The principal then puts on a mask and chants incantations, revealing the terrifying face of the idol they worship. Meanwhile, the abbot shows Nee the fetus born with Panor. Nee cuts a piece from it and makes a powder, explaining it holds traces of dark magic that might counter the spell on Peek. She feeds it to him while chanting, causing Peek's body to convulse violently as he gets some visions, and he eventually spits something out and is finally saved. However, as he regains his senses, he says he's going to save Panor and leaves immediately. Meanwhile, as the principal tries to force himself on Panor, the villagers begin throwing flowers at them. The inspector shoots the principal, but the bullet has no effect. Cult members lunge at him, but the police open fire and take them down. The principal declares that no one can stop him and begins chanting spells while looking toward the sky, summoning a swarm of crows. However, before the crows can cause any harm, they burst into flames midair and fall to the ground. It is then revealed that Nee is performing a ritual to destroy them. The principal places the mask on Panor's face and begins chanting incantations, causing dark magic to seep out of Panor's body and into the mask. Just then, Peek arrives and strikes the principal with a machete, but it has no effect. The principal hurls him aside, jumps at him, and begins beating him, saying he's asking for death. He then grabs an axe to kill him, but suddenly, his hand catches fire, and then his entire body begins to burn. It's revealed that Nee has set the dead child's body ablaze, triggering the principal's destruction. But he rubs soil on himself while chanting incantations in a desperate attempt to stop it. Meanwhile, Peek rushes to Panor and tries to free her, but the principal slams his hand to the ground, sending a shockwave that knocks Nee back. The principal grabs Peek and threatens Panor, telling her to surrender what lies within her, or Peek will die. Peek pleads, "Don't," but Panor hesitantly picks up the mask and places it on her head. The principal begins chanting incantations, causing black magic to pour out of Panor's body and into the mask. Suddenly, Peek scratches the principal's arm, disrupting the ritual, and urges Panor, "Stab me with the bamboo spear, as my blood can stop him." Panor grabs the spear and stabs Peek, stabbing the principal with him. And as both Peek and the principal collapse, the principal warns, "Even if you defeat me, what is mine will never leave." Enraged, Panor rises, grabs a knife, and stabs him. She tears open his abdomen and says, "Then I'll take your precious powers for myself." She thrusts her hand into his belly, and as he reminds her that the power will remain with her until death, she pulls his heart from his chest, and Peek watches in shock as Panor eats it. She then returns the mask to the idol, kneels before it, and declares, "I return this power to the three-eyed deity." She begins chanting, and as the powers exit her body and flow back into the mask, she collapses. Next, we see Peek in the hospital, where the inspector tells his father that he's lucky the wound didn't hit any vital organs, and that he'll make a full recovery soon. He visits the abbot, who reveals the cult has long exploited the villagers, living among them in secret. The inspector realizes the spells cast on him were their doing, and the abbot confirms it, explaining they use greed and desire to trap people in dark magic and aim to drive monks and temples away. The inspector says that Panor is like a light born out of darkness, and the abbot adds, "Now you must understand that everything Panor did was to help the villagers break free from the cult's control." That night, a moth quietly flies into Panor's room and settles on her for a while, before fluttering away. The next morning, Panor finally opens her eyes, and Peek is overjoyed to see her awake. He gently helps her sit up, but looking around in confusion, she asks, "Where am I? And who are you?" A few years later, we see Panor in college, now pursuing a teaching course. During a lecture, the teacher scolds a group of students for not paying attention and disrupting the class. Panor turns to them with a sharp, disapproving glare, and the movie ends there.